seconds. And hopefully Facebook will give us some love. Won't hook up on us.
I hope so. I'm gonna go on here and help give it some love. There it is.
All right, let me make an adjustment to my stand-up desk here, and we're going to jump into this, my friend. If you guys are coming on, you see us going live here, do me a favor and let us know what is happening, what is going on with you. 1 second, say hello, all that kind of good stuff. Chris and I are going live. Here we go. I'm opening it up here so I can see the comments. I'm gonna get a little bit of feedback here. Chris, hold on 1 sec. All right, let me make an adjustment to my stand-up desk here, and we're going to jump into this. All right. What is happening, ladies and gentlemen? Beautiful Wednesday. I'm joined by my friend, Mr. Chris Naugle here, proud new father. Still has the hospital wristband on. I saw it. Man, that's how you know it's new. Wow. Love it, brother. Love it. Thanks for making the time. I know that the timing is not ideal here, but I appreciate you carving out an hour for everybody here today, bro.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I always love doing these.
All right. So guys, do us both a big favor and welcome Chris here. Let him know loud and clear. 1, congratulate him on being a brand new father. And 2, let him know where you're coming in from as you're joining us. Chris is a master when it comes to money. If you go back and look at all of the expert sessions I did roughly a little over a month ago, Chris's was the one that had the very most comments on it because the information was so, hardcore and eye-opening for people. So I invited him back here today. We're going to do a little, I'm going to let him kind of run with it here for an hour and kind of break down, as I promised, some of the myths that are going on out there. So little background, Chris and I known each other for a long time, but it wasn't until last quarter, fourth quarter of last year that Chris and I actually got to spend some time and see him go through a 2-day accelerator that we were doing for our tribe at Boardroom. And as he was doing this, I had a huge epiphany, which is saying a lot, right? I've been doing this for a long time. I've been, I've had more than my fair share of success, and to be sitting in a room and have somebody break something down for me to that degree where I was like, what in the hell is wrong with me, man? My head has been so far up my ass this whole time. I had no idea. It was humbling to say the least. And so I was really excited after he got done talking, because there was a lot of information he shared that was just kind of, quite frankly, earth-shattering for me, right? It was very humbling, as I said. And so I'm excited to kind of, 1, give you guys a little bit of a taste of that today and let him go through it. And then 2, ultimately, he and I are going to be doing an event next week, a virtual event Monday and Tuesday, that I know a lot of you will get excited about and hopefully join us for that as well. So again, let me go over here. I'm going to shout some people out that are joining us as you're coming on. Again, don't be bashful. Give us a little love on the love button. Give us a little like on the like button, and definitely go in there and comment. That way Facebook will send the message out to all the people in this group, now 6,400 people strong. It'll put it in all of their news feeds so we can get more people on here. I want to get as many people as humanly possible so that nobody misses out on this, because I believe it is that important here. So Dustin Hoffman, what's going on, brother? Good to see you. Todd, what's going on? Good to see you. Kimberly, coming in. What is happening? Carly coming in. Our beautiful Carly coming in from Huntsville, Alabama. Alan, what's going on? Danny, what's going on? Daryl. All right. So as they're coming on, Chris, I don't want to waste a lot of time here. Let's just kind of jump into it. And again, I know time is precious right now, right? And again, I appreciate you carving it out here for us, but I don't want to waste much of it. Let's just kind of jump into what, as you as the expert, see most of the mistakes that people are making, right? I think a lot of people walk around with their heads in cloud a little bit and have no idea that they have been at some kind of subconscious level conned into this myth of the way money actually works. And so whether they realize it or not, they are just part of the system that keeps them ignorant. And so I'd love for you to do a little bit of that, talk about, kind of the ways people can potentially start accelerating the growth of their business and really kind of holding on to more of their money and making the system work for them. Is that cool?
That's great. Yeah. I mean, there is so much to this topic. There's a lot. So I'm really going to take today, because I know we're doing the accelerator next week and I'm going to really go down in the weeds in that. But today I really just want to give a pretty high level understanding of, the myth is really what it is. The big lie, as I used to call it. But, it's funny. I could have never learned all this stuff if I didn't actually live it, fail at it numerous times, and then actually have to relearn it the proper way and see it from all sides. Being a high level advisor for 16 years, a lot of people, call us stockbrokers, whatever you want to call us, Wall Street. But I did that for 16 years and I had the rosy colored glasses on. I always like to put these on and say, this is kind of what it was like being an advisor. I had these glasses on and I listened to everything they told me. I did what they told me. And, I never took the glasses off to really see what was really going on, kind of like the Matrix, red pill or blue pill. It's you got to pick. And the biggest myth that I would say is everything we've been taught about how money really works our entire lives is really all about you giving up control of your money. And it's becoming very blatantly obvious that that's what we're doing, especially in light of what's happening right now. For those of you watching, if this is recorded, this is the COVID economic crisis, whatever you want to call it, pandemic, it's going by a lot of names, but there's a lot of stuff getting flushed out here. And, it took us, let's go back to 2008. And here's one thing I've learned a lot, not just from being an advisor, but also being a real estate investor, flipping over 257 houses, doing, every mistake you can possibly make in that business I did. But also some of the other things that I've learned is I have literally made it part of my life to follow around successful, wealthy people and mimic and watch what they do. And in doing that, it was, like I said about taking the glasses off, I started to realize that what the wealthy do with money is the complete opposite of everything that I was taught to do as an advisor, everything I was taught to tell my clients, everything that I was doing. And because I kept doing everything I was taught and I kept just riding what I like to call the financial roller coaster ride, or the, being stuck like a financial hamster wheel, in doing that, I kept failing. I failed in 2008. I almost lost it all, almost went bankrupt again in 2014. I thought I had it. I literally had the bull by the horns. And then all of a sudden I was just like, wait, what happened? I got bucked off the bull. And I just started to really, in 14, I started to think to myself, and after watching all these successful people during these different periods of economic crashes, how they did better. Most of these people that I was seeing, they excelled during times like this. They excelled in 2008 and 9. And then here I was failing, watching a lot of my clients lose their their savings, their retirement with the stock market crashing. And I'm just like, wait a second, what the heck is going on here? And what don't I know? And in 14, this is when it all happened. One of the worst periods of my life. That's when I dove in and I started doing everything it took to follow around billionaires, multimillionaires, the most successful people, paying for mentorships over and over again to learn what I've learned today. And it just, now that I know it, sometimes I find it hard for me to go back to that day and say, how did I not see this? How did I not see what the Rockefellers have done? How did I not see what the Walt Disneys, the Ray Krocs, the Morgan Stanleys of the world, what they were doing? Why is it that none of this stuff was ever brought to my attention? Because it was right under my nose. It's right under every one of our nose. We all can see exactly what it is I'm going to talk about, but we just simply don't know how to apply that knowledge because we don't know how money works. And the biggest thing that, like I said, we've been taught to give up control of our money. Think about it. Really, think long and hard. The truth hurts, but I'm going to get into the truth. What have you been taught to do with your money? Well, you've been taught to put money in retirement accounts, right? 401ks, 403bs, 457s, employer-sponsored plans. That's what you've been taught to do with your money. And, and we're not talking about self-directed IRAs here. I'm talking about the ones you do at work. Every single person you've talked to your whole life. Back to me, my grandmother was like, Chris, you got to put money into the retirement account. When you have a 401k, make sure you save as much as you can because you don't ever want to get to retirement age and not have money to retire like grandpa and I, and this is just what we're brought up to believe. So what did I do? The first big boy job I got. Do you have a 401k? Yes. Do you match? Yes. That was kind of how I was. And I just started plowing money into these 401ks. And that's the reason why those vehicles have 40 some trillion dollars sitting in them, because that's what we've been taught to do. And really think about what you've been taught to do. You have been taught to give up control of your best, most valuable dollars. Right now, in this whole economic crisis, and you can even look at 2008 and 9, what has happened? What has the government done to answer the problem? Printed money, right? 2 trillion and counting. Pretty soon, I think it's going to be $5 trillion. Like, can you even comprehend how much money that is? And then you need to really comprehend, where does that money come from? Oh, yes, it's a printing press, right? They hit the fast button and it prints more and more money. And then, okay, well, they print money, but now that we're not on the gold standard anymore, like, where does that money get value? I'll tell you where it gets value. It gets value from your current dollars, which is exactly why your money is worth the most today. If you went back 20 years ago, how many candy bars could you have bought for $1? The answer is a lot more than today. But what do we do with our most valuable dollars? We give up control of them. We put them in 401ks so that we get that upfront feel good feeling of a tax deduction, really. And we put our money in, we get the tax deduction today, and we wait to a later day, 59 and a half at the earliest, where we then can take that money out, and then we pay taxes on that money when we take it out. And when we work our whole lives, don't we make more money? Well, if you're doing something right, and most of you are all very good at working hard and making a lot of money. So what you're making today is the least amount you're going to be making later. You're going to be making more. And what happens to taxes when we make more money? Don't they go up? Well, taxes can only go up or go down, right? And if I ask everybody, do taxes go up or down? Everybody says they go up, but not always. Taxes don't always go up. But if they don't go up, don't they just find more shit to tax us on? I mean, look at Florida. Like Florida, people are moving there by the truckloads, heck, by the boatloads, because there's no state income tax. But all Florida did is figured out, okay, let's not have state income tax. So everybody wants to move here, but then let's tax them on everything else. You can't drive down one of their throughways and get a quarter mile without having a toll. Every quarter mile, there's a toll. That's a tax. So if your taxes aren't going up, you're just being taxed on more stuff. So we take our good dollars, we put them in there because that's what we've been taught to do, or because of a match. And I'm not saying anything bad about matches, but if you're putting money in a 401k and you're getting a match, that's free money. So if it's 3% and you put in 3, you get that match. Great. Keep doing that. But so many people that I talk to are putting 10, 15, 20% into the retirement because they're like, oh, I got to bulk up. I got to get ready for retirement. How's that working right now? Probably not so good, because for 11 years, from 2009 to 2020, you had a bull market and your money was growing and growing and growing. And you thought the fairy tale and the story was never going to end. But it's not the never ending story like the movie we watched. The story just ended. In 2 weeks, most people gave back all of their gains in 2 weeks that it took them 11 years to make. So if that's that's the best thing for us to do with money, why is it that we constantly ride the roller coaster? Well, it's because we've been taught to do things with money that we would just never do with things that money buys. I love this analogy, and this is the best way for me to explain this. Imagine going to the grocery store and you buy a loaf of bread. You come home and you take that loaf of bread, you put it in your freezer and you close the freezer door. But then you wait 5, 10, or 15 years and you come back to that same freezer, you open the door, you pull out that moldy, freezer burned loaf of bread, and I want you to look at it and I want you to say, yum. You wouldn't eat that. That's been in your freezer burned for 15 or whatever years. You wouldn't buy a car and wait 5, 10, or 15 years to drive the car. And you certainly wouldn't go out and buy your dream house for your family and wait 5, 10, or 15 years to move into that house. And if you did, you wouldn't be married anymore. But yeah, that's what we do with money, isn't it? We do things with money we would never do with things that money buys. That $2 trillion they just printed, that just took value from your dollars. It's called inflation. It's a hidden tax. It's why milk costs more now. It's why cars cost more. It's why your living expenses go up. Everything goes up, but your money loses value. It's funny how that works. But yet we don't even think about that because we're not taught that. Holy cow, why would anyone tell you the truth? They just want you to know the big lie. So you do that with your money. But what else do we do with money? Well, I know a lot of people I talk to, and I talk to hundreds and hundreds of people about money I would almost say monthly. I talk to so many people, I don't even know how many it is. And I find out where people put their money. They put them in retirement accounts. And a lot of people right now use checking and savings accounts for their savings vehicles. Think about what you're actually doing. To understand how and why banks do what they do, you have to really kind of you have to peel the onion. You have to go underground and really see their operations. And what we do is we deposit money at the banks. In turn, we are giving up control of that money. Now, when I tell people that, they're always like, no, I didn't give up control of my money. I can go back to that bank and take my money back out. Sure, you can. And just as a little test, Why don't you go try doing that right now? Go to your local bank and try to take all your money out of the bank today. Try to do it. You can't. They won't give it all to you. You'll walk in there and you'll try to take all your money as long as you have more than 10,000. So if you have less than 10, you got a good chance of maybe getting most of it back. But if you got more, you're going to say, hi, yes, I'd like to take all my money out. And you'll see the teller with a big smile go in and look. And then all of a sudden they'll see that you got a big chunk in there and they'll kind of go like this. And they'll kind of do one of these like to their manager, and their manager comes over and looks and moves the glasses down on their forehead and says, oh, Mr. Naugle, sir, I understand you want to withdraw all of your money, but we have a policy right now with the COVID. We can't give you all your money right now. We're only allowing you to take $3,000 to $5,000, whatever bank it is, $3,000 or $5,000 of your money on a daily basis. And you look at the teller and you take your glasses and you're like, excuse me, that's my money. I want my money right now. I need it. And the teller says, they kind of do their little powwow and they say, well, we can't, but I assure you, we can have most of it inside of 24 or 36 hours. How does that make you feel? Because that's exactly the truth. And if you don't believe me, test it out, because I'm hearing this from a lot of people that actually are testing it. And the facts are the facts. The bank doesn't have money sitting in the vault like they used to, folks. You can't just go take all your money out. So who is really in control of your money? Is it you or is it the bank? It's the bank. But then let's go another level. If the banks are in control of your money, what are they doing with your money? Well, you know what banks are masters of? Moving money. Banks found out that the best way to make money is just to constantly move money. But what do we do with our money? We deposit it and we just let it sit, right? We just put it somewhere and we just let it sit. We don't move our money, but the banks are moving our money. We go in and we make a deposit. Now let's just play a little game. Imagine you had $100,000. I don't care what amount you picture, but let's just use this easy math. You had $100,000. You went to the bank and you deposited $100,000 in your local bank of whatever state you live in. And your bank is going to pay you 4% on your money. Now, folks, I know your bank isn't paying you 4%. If you're getting 1%, you better thank your lucky stars, because that's being lucky. That's exactly what it is. But let's just pretend they give you 4%. So you're excited about that 4%, aren't you? You're like, yes, my bank's paying me 4%. So you put your money there. And what you did is, by making that deposit, you created an asset for yourself. You can go on a personal financial statement and top line, cash at bank, $100,000. You feel good. But the bank, that's a liability. So the bank doesn't want liability. So what do? Well, they move your money and my money and everybody else's money and they loan it out. Your neighbor's sitting in one of the cubicles buying a new house. And you knew your neighbor was moving. So you said your goodbyes. Now your neighbor's there getting a mortgage. So the bank is then loaning your neighbor that $100,000 you just deposited. And let's just assume that mortgage is 7%. Don't get hung up on the numbers. The 4% isn't real. You know that. So the 7%, let's just keep in fairy tale land. So the bank charges 7% on that mortgage. So that neighbor gets that mortgage. They exchange it for keys for the house. So the seller gives the keys. Your neighbor gives the cash from the mortgage over to the seller. And now that was the exchange, because that's all money is, just a means of exchange. And then that seller deposits the money back in the bank. And the bank's like, dang, now I got another liability. So they loan that money back out. You're so excited about what's going on. And you run out and buy yourself an M4, BMW M4, and they charge you 8% on that loan. So again, you exchange the loan for the car, keys for money. The car dealership deposits the money back in the bank, creating another liability. And this just keeps going on. Home remodel loan, and then debt consolidation loan. All the bank's doing is just literally just circulating and moving money. And every time they're moving that money, they're charging more than what they're paying you. I used 4% and 7%, but if you went through this whole thing, and I do this example and I'll show it to you next week, you would find that the bank, through all these little markups, right? The bank makes 20% on your money. Now, how many of you would be okay making 20% on someone else's money? I hope you all say every one of you would be okay with that. Well, banks are okay with that as well, except for there's a mathematical problem with what I just explained, what I'll show you next week. You see, that problem is that the bank didn't just make 20%. The bank made 5 times more than you, because you're getting 4% and the bank's making 20. That's a 500% increase. That's 5 times more. The banks on average, and you can check this factually. I just had some joker on Facebook on one of my posts, like one of those trolls come on and like beat me up saying, where's the factual proof? Here's the factual proof. Go to www.bauerfinancial.com. You can look up any bank for any time frame and you can see exactly how much money banks are making on the money you deposit there. And the answer is 400 to 1,300%. How many of you now would be okay making 400 to 1,300% on someone else's money? If you guys didn't raise your hand, if I don't see some hearts, some thumbs up, some love on that one, well, if that's what you want to do, wouldn't it just make sense just to mimic what the banks do? That would make a ton of sense, right? That's what I've done. I just use a bank because all of you know what a bank is, but I have literally just gone out and mimicked what the wealthiest people that I have met do with their money. And I literally took that and then I just started teaching people how to do the same thing. And the easiest part is everybody makes money so darn complicated. Money is not complicated. The problem with money is everything you've been taught about money makes it complicated because, well, when I was an advisor, I had to talk all these big words, standard deviation and gamma and theta and delta and beta and all these things. And yeah, are all those things important when you're in the weeds, day trading or doing that stuff? Yeah, but does that matter for you? No, everybody's like, whoa, I don't care. Here, just take my money and go make me some more money. And what happens? Well, they're not making you money right now, are they? But wouldn't it be better if you were in control of that money and you knew places to put that money where you could do the same thing the banks do? For example, what if there was a place where you could put money where when you deposit that money, you make a guaranteed 4%? Literally, your money never ever doesn't make a guaranteed 4%. And while that money's making 4%, every single year you get a dividend check deposited into your account. Just why not, right? Just get a dividend check. That would be pretty cool. But what would be even cooler is now, what if that deposit that you made that's earning 4% plus dividend, what if you could go to that really good place that you just deposited that money and take all your money back out and then never stop earning that 4% plus dividend? Now, I hope all of you heard that properly. So you just deposited your money in the bank, okay, but it's not a bank. You deposit your money, but then you go back in and you take all your money out, but you're still making interest and dividends on that money. Wouldn't that be a really cool thing to learn? Yeah, it would. And that's what I learned. And when I learned this, the first thing, and I'll never forget it, 2014, I was with a gentleman by the name of Mike Baird in Salt Lake City at a cheesecake factory. And we're talking about money. And he lent me a lot of money on my deals. And we're just chit-chatting. And he starts telling me about this place. He's like, Chris, I'm doing this thing with money. And Mike does very well, just so you guys know. And he's doing this thing with money. He starts explaining it. Now, remember, I'm 14 years into being a financial advisor at this point, and I'm listening intently because money is just a thing. I'm always like, yeah, what is this? Come on, give it to me. And he keeps giving it to me. And I'm like, and then all of a sudden I had this epiphany and I'm like, whoa. You're talking about whole life insurance, man. Like, in whole life insurance doesn't work the way you just explained it. And he looks at me with this, like, if you knew the guy, you'd know this look. He looks at me and he says, well, that's exactly what I'm doing. And it's working exactly like that. So I don't know what you know or don't know, but that's how I'm using it. And you know, those loans I'm making you, yeah, that's where the money's coming from. So I don't know, man, I'm not an expert, but that's what it's doing. I was literally at that moment, I said, you know, this is too good to be true. There's no way. I'm an advisor. I know all about this, but it doesn't work that way. So what does this guy know that I don't know? And why does he know this? And then he says, well, you got to get a hold of this guy, Brent. And that's who did this. And he can tell you all about it. Cause I don't know, man, I'm just using it and my money's making money. And you know what? You're paying me 12% on that loan I just made you, right? I'm like, yeah. You want to reduce that interest rate? He said, no. But anyway, he's making money on money while he's lending it out to me at 12. So he's making 4% plus dividend, plus he's making 12% from me. I mean, that's like making money twice. When I heard this, I'm just like, this can't be what. And obviously the most logical thing is I called Brent and I said, Brent, you got to tell me about this thing. I'm an advisor. And I just kept going down this whole thing. And he stops me. He says, all right, Chris, great. I'm happy you're excited about it. And I'd love to teach you about it, but you got to watch this video. And I said, no, I forget the video. I know all about this. Just tell me what to do. Tell me how to do this. At this point, I'm like selfishly thinking, okay, I'll take this back to my practice and do this because I was still an advisor. And he says, no, you got to watch the video. And when you watch the video, then we can talk. And I said, oh, how long's the video? I mean, no problem. And he said it was 90 minutes long. And I'm like, oh man, Brent, kind of busy, man. I don't really have 90 minutes. Well, I don't know. I mean, is there any way there's a shorter video? He said, nope, it's 90 minutes. And when you're done with the video, we can set up a time to talk. So reluctantly, I went back and I watched this video with a big cup of coffee. And I remember starting that video, I'm thinking, this is going to suck. This is going to be boring. It's going to be the same stuff I know. 90 minutes flew by in like 15 seconds. I took one sip of the coffee in the beginning and I had 4 pages of notes. And I felt a lot like all of you will feel next week when you actually learn what this is, because I literally felt like I learned the secret that had been held from me my entire life. And this was the secret that banks have always known about. This is the secret of what the Rockefellers did way back when they had all their money, because they didn't trust banks. Now, earlier I told you what banks are doing, how they're making money on you, and how you can't even take all your money. So you're probably naturally thinking, well, I'm kind of upset about that whole bank thing. But not only should you not, maybe you're upset, maybe you're not going to stop using banks. But the other thing too that you really need to understand is banks are in control. 2009, when the economic crash happened, the Great Recession happened, so many of us, myself included, all thought we were all set because we had our home equity lines of credit. So we had money there. Okay. California people were like devastated by this because most of their wealth was in their real estate, their housing, and they had home equity lines of credit on this housing. And they're like, I got hundreds of thousands of dollars in my home equity. This recession will be nothing. Then all of a sudden they get a letter from their bank, or they see it on the news. Bank of America freezes all lines of credit, or you get a letter saying your line of credit, just got reduced by 40% or 50% or whatever it was. I'm just making this up, but this really happened. Most people didn't have any access to their line of credit anymore. So if they were in control of their money and that's their equity in their house, or that's their line of credit that they applied for, they worked hard to keep that credit score up. And then all of a sudden, like that, because of one event, their line of credit just got frozen and they have no access to their money. Who's in control, folks? Who's your daddy? That's right. But that's what you've been taught to do. We got to change that. And to change that, you got to learn some things, and you got to learn what the wealthy do in this system I was just talking about that I learned in 14 from Mike, and then again from Brent, and now I've applied in my life. It's called infinite banking. You can look it up and you're going to find there's tons of knowledge out there. This isn't something new, but most people have never, ever heard about it. Even people that have heard about it, they still don't understand the concept of how to do it. Now, when I learned this in 14, I was deeply in debt. I first used my first banking policy to pay off debt. And remember how I said I did this, right? I made deposits on a monthly basis because that's all I could do, and they weren't a lot. And then I took loans from my banking policy and I paid debt off. But when I took those loans, my money never, ever stopped earning interest. So my money that was in this policy, and just so everybody knows, when you heard me say whole life insurance, many of you blanked out, right? You're like, oh, I don't want to hear any more of this. This is whole life. You know what? Will Rogers said something profound. He did a quote, and that quote said, the problem in America is not what people don't know. The biggest problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so. You think you know what it is. You think you know how it works, like I did, but you really don't. You see, the banks understand this, and the banks have been using this for hundreds of years, and the banks are the number one purchasers of whole life insurance in the world. They own more whole life. And Ken, I remember your example on this was awesome because you did your homework. I said this at that accelerator. I said, banks own more whole life insurance than they do all the land in the real estate in the buildings combined. So what he do? He went on, found Bank of America and his public company. So their balance sheet's right there. And he looked it up. Cash value life insurance, real estate. And he's like, son of a pup.
Yeah.
That dude was right.
I looked straight up. I looked up Wells Fargo and I looked up Bank of America, and Wells Fargo had, I want to say 22 billion on their balance sheet of whole life policies and 9 billion of real estate. And Bank of America was very similar. It was somewhere in the same kind of ranges, basically 3 to 1, minimum 2 to 1. So that was the light bulb for me when I realized that the concepts that we were talking about, to your point, are this is not myth. This is not, it is something to be unraveled and utilized. And the reason banks do it, and the reason, quite frankly, many big corporations do this, and most, if not all of the wealthy do this, is because it's just factual and it actually works. It is an unbelievable strategy to put into place. But if you don't know, and to your point, probably the single biggest challenge for everybody watching right now is that you think you know. Just like I did, right?
I will tell you, that is the number one problem.
Your brain is working against you. Number one, it's telling you, well, maybe that's true, maybe it's not, right? You have this fear of disbelief. The second thing is you're sitting there saying, well, I don't really understand. In both of those scenarios, you owe yourself an explanation. If you want to be rich, you owe yourself an explanation. And that's what I did. After Chris broke this down, I went, it's not hard to go on to look up public records and look at their latest 10K filings and go look at a balance sheet. And the moment I saw exactly what he had told me I was going to find, that this is what the banks do, I was like, Jesus Christ, this is unbelievable. I cannot believe that I did not know about this. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Oh, no. I'm glad you did.
It was a huge, huge light bulb for me that this is real, baby. This is real. It doesn't get any more real than this.
And the other thing that makes that even more real is then when I say, and I'm going to tell everybody here, when you go to your bank, don't you see an awful lot of vice presidents at the banks? Like when you walk into a branch, there's all these vice presidents. They all have the little gold or black badges and they're just walking around with their, if they're a guy, their chest puffed out like this. But then you have to start asking, why does a bank need so many freaking vice presidents? It just doesn't make any sense until you understand the truth of why. Because if banks are the number one purchasers of these specially designed whole life policies, then they need to have someone to insure to buy these policies. They can't just buy a policy without having somebody insured. So in order for a company or a corporation to insure somebody, they have to have an insurable interest in that person. And what is an insurable interest? How about an executive of your company? Is a vice president an executive? Yes, it might be the lowest level, but it's still an executive of the company, which gives that bank the full right to basically call that person an insurable interest. So what does the bank do? During the promotion phase, they say to that employee, they say, all right, Mr. Vice President, you are being promoted. We're going to give you a small pay raise, very small, but we're going to give you a pay raise. But really the reason we're doing this is you want the benefits. What we're going to do is we're going to give you a fully paid up life insurance policy. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to do anything for it. This is just going to be for your family. We're just going to give this to you and you can have it forever. Okay. Let's call it $100,000. Then what we're going to also do is we're going to, aside from that raise, we're going to give you this thing called a deferred comp. Deferred compensation plan works like this, Mr. VP. See, you spend the next 20 years slaving for our bank, okay, only our bank. And then in the 21st year, what our bank will do is we will start paying you out a check every single month or year, whatever way you want, every single year till the day you die. We'll just pay it to you and you don't have to put any money into this. This is the deferred comp. Now, some deferred comps, they have the ability to contribute, but let's just pretend the main reason. So now this employee is really excited and the bank is equally more excited because now the bank's like, all right, Mr. Insurance Company, yes, I'd like to buy a $2 million whole life policy on this brand new VP. Yep, he's an executive. He's going to be running the janitorial division. He's the VP of janitory. And we need a $2 million whole life policy. Great. All right, perfect. Thanks. And then the insurance company issues this policy on this person's life. And they basically then the bank uses that money. They put money into it and they immediately start using that money. Now, as they're using that money continues to earn interest and dividends no matter whether they're using it or not. The employee retires, they pay out that deferred comp. And then someday, like all of us, the two certains in life, death and taxes, that VP dies. When that VP dies, his family gets $100,000. How much does the bank get? That's right. 1.9 million. And it's just an example, but 1.9 million. Do you think the Rockefellers understood this? See, the Rockefellers didn't trust banks. They didn't trust banks. They wanted to create their own banking system, but they didn't want to create a banking system using banks because of fractional lending and just the instability. So what they did is they went to the strongest financial institution, insurance companies, but not just any insurance company, large mutually owned dividend paying insurance companies. And they said, how do we create a banking-like system? And they figured it out. And they figured it out that through a special provision in these whole life contracts, they could literally mimic a banking instrument without having to worry about this being strictly just a life insurance policy. Because when you think of a whole life, you think of a life insurance plan. But the banks are thinking of this and the Rockefellers are thinking of this as I want access to the cash. I want a return on my cash and I want to be able to use my cash because I need to move that money. So that's what they got the ability to do. Now, you might go down to your local insurance company and, on the shelf, you see a fancy whole life and you buy that whole life. I assure you, if you do that, it will not work the way that I'm explaining. It will be a life insurance policy, which is what you know of whole life. The way that they're doing that, the way that we're doing this, and the way I'm using this is not for the death benefit. The death benefit will always be there, but it's a second or a third benefit. I want the cash. In other words, if I make a deposit into one of these banking policies, let's use 10 grand. I make a deposit into one of these policies. Now, the second I make my deposit, within the next 30 days, when my check clears, I will have access to between 60 and 92% of my money. Now you might be like, well, why 60 to 92? It's all in the plan design because different needs require different plan designs. And we have two different plan designs now. the 92% seems really good for real estate investors because they have the ability to then take that 92% out, go and use that money for real estate deals and make a heck of a return. The plan that only gives you access to 60%, which is still far better than any life insurance policy you've ever seen. Let me repeat that. You deposit $10,000. The second your check clears, or in the first 30 days is what I like to say, you take your money right back out. And when you take your money out, remember your full $10,000 is earning 4%. Plus every year you're going to receive a dividend payment from that company because it's a mutually owned insurance company. They share their profits and their surplus not spent with their policyholders. They don't have stockholders like Wall Street. So that's who gets it. And every year you're earning this. Now, when you take that money out of the plan, you're taking a loan. Now, you know of a loan when you go to a bank, you fill out an application, you go through a rigorous proctoral exam, and then they give you the loan if you're lucky, and then you have to pay that loan back every month. Now, the insurance company makes you a loan, and that loan, they do charge you interest. It's a whopping 5% simple interest. Now, your $10,000 that you just deposited is earning how much? I said 4% plus a dividend. So let me tell you what the dividend is for one of the main insurance companies we use. It's 2.2%, the lowest it's ever been in 30 years. But 4 plus 2.2 is what? 6.2. So your money's making 6.2 and you're allowed to use your money at a rate of 5%. So the arbitrage or the spread is 1.2% that you're making. Imagine if your bank did that. You went in and you deposited 10 grand. You went back in and you took 9,000 of that 10 grand out, and your full 10 grand earned 6.2% while you took that money out and the bank only charged you 5. Would a bank ever do that? Heck no. Because the bank's 3 layers deep on this thing. They figured out that they just got to trick you to make your deposits and they give you nothing or less than 1%. And then they go out and they lend that money right back to us at really high interest rates. But the Rockefellers were having no part of that. And that's why they created this. It's literally, and I'm not going deep into this, folks. I don't want you guys to sit there and wait for me to give you the punchline. I'm going to give that next week. I'm going to literally explain this in a finite detail. And I'm going to show you how I've literally built I'm not going to say I have an empire in real estate, but I have a really sizable multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. And how I built it is using these banking systems, because how I've done it is I put my money in systematically. I just keep putting money into them. And then when I go and I buy a piece of property and I borrow money from a private lender, a hard money lender, or a bank, there's always a spread that I got to cover. Okay. Even if my friend Greg lends me money, he doesn't give me all the money. I gotta put some skin in the game. Where do you know where that skin in the game comes from? My banking policy. I take a loan from that insurance company. They charge me 5%. And then what I do is I loan that money to my LLC. This diagram here, I'm going to go over next week. I'm going to show you exactly how this works. I loan that money to my LLC and I charge my LLC 6%. Cheaper than any bank's going to give me money. I charge my LLC 6%. But you see that loan that I just took from the insurance company, the beautiful thing is I'm in control. I call the terms. If I want to pay 7%, if I want to pay 4%, I can change the terms. I just charge myself 6. Okay. My money's still earning 6.2% interest plus dividend. I'm losing 5% to the insurance company. So I'm netting 1.2, but then I'm charging 6 to my company. Okay. And I do that and I just keep doing that, but I don't have to pay that loan back. See, when you take a loan out, you think you have to pay it back, which you always do. If you don't pay a loan back, what happens? Well, they come take your car. They eventually take your house. They ding your credit score and they send you nasty letters, right? If you don't pay the insurance company back that loan that you just took, the insurance company doesn't care. They will never send you a letter asking for that money back. They don't ever care if you pay it back. Matter of fact, the worst part is you'll never even know that you're supposed to pay it back unless you ask them, hey, this loan, can I pay this back? The insurance company will be like, sure, you can pay it back. Because the insurance company, when you signed that contract, when they promised to pay you 4% interest on that and give you the whole life policy, they also promised to pay a death benefit upon your death. That death benefit, when it's paid out, all the insurance company says is I got to pay $500,000 out when you die. If you took 300,000 of that while you're living in loans, we're just going to take the 300 off of the 500 and the death benefit, and we're just going to call it true up. The insurance companies don't care because they do everything for 100-year blocks. It's not like you and I. They don't care if you pay the loan back. Matter of fact, they're probably thrilled if you don't, because then they're making 5% on their books. That 5%, even though it doesn't sound like a lot to you and I, that's a ton of money to an insurance company over 100 years. Trust me, that's what they're after. But if you do pay that money back, which we teach that and we show you how to do that, which we call being an honest banker, you now just perpetuate how fast your money is going to grow. So now everybody, when I do these, I used to just stop there, but let's talk returns. When you think of a cash on cash return, that's how we look at real estate, right? I buy a property for X. I sell it for Y, and that return, whatever I made, that's your cash on cash return. That's how much you made. So if you deposited 10,000 or you bought something for 10 grand and that 10 grand made you $1,000, your cash on cash return is the net, right? That's what you did. Well, that's how you need to look at these. A lot of people have been taught that cumulative return is how to do it. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Cumulative return is what you do with the bank or what you do with an investment account, because you're just parking your money there and you're leaving it. It's leaving your money sit, which defies the laws of nature and the laws of the universe, which everything is in motion. My lips are flapping right now. The wind is blowing. Planes may or may not be flying over right now, but everything's in motion. However, your money's not. Your money's just sitting there, being lazy, doing nothing but helping somebody else make more money because they know a thing or two you don't know. So in doing that, moving your money is what you need to do. And why wouldn't you ever want to move money if you know that you can take your money out and still make interest on it? Use it. Imagine this. I have money in my banking policy. One of you comes to me and says, "Hey, Chris, I got this great real estate deal. I'm looking for 100 grand and I'm willing to pay 12%. Do you think I'd be all over that if it's a good deal? You're darn right. Where's the money going to come from? My banking policy. So I'm going to take a loan from that insurance company. I'm going to give that loan to you. You're going to collateralize it with a piece of real estate. Now I'm acting as a private lender. I'm going to collateralize it with your real estate so that if you don't pay me, I take your real estate. Now, in doing that, we make an agreement that you're going to pay me back 12% interest. I'm going to get checks every month from you of 12% or 12% annualized. So I'm happy getting those checks. But what am I doing with those checks you give me? I'm taking them, I'm putting them right back in my banking policy, paying that loan down to the insurance company. But did my money ever stop working for itself? Never. It just continued to keep earning interest. This is this is the stuff that when I learned this, it blew my mind. And all of a sudden I started thinking, how much deeper can I go with this? How much can I use this for? Well, first I started using it to pay down debt, because why wouldn't you want to use something that has uninterrupted compound interest to pay your debt down, especially when you can take money out, pay your credit cards off, take whatever you were giving the credit card companies and put it back in your account.
Hey, for a second here.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that for 1 second, because I want to make sure everybody really understands what you just said about the compound interest, right? And we said, who is it? Einstein that said it's the eighth wonder of the world?
Yep, I was going there.
So here's the thing. Guys, I really want you to think about what he's saying. When he takes the 100 grand out to go loan it at 12% to somebody else, the bank or the insurance company, as far as they're concerned, the 100 grand is still sitting in their account and he's still making interest over here at 4%, right? And he's over here loaned it out at 12%, less the 5. So he's making 7 over here and he's making 4 over here, and it's the same damn dollar. It's when I saw, this is the part that just blew my mind. I'm like, this sounds like the craziest shit I've ever heard, but it's just real. And that's what makes it so freaking powerful and exciting when you realize that the money is making money for you in 2 places at the exact same time. It's fascinating.
So let me blow your mind even more, because now everybody's like, that sounds pretty good, but that's really not the whole truth. Now that's year 1. That what we just explained, what Kent just said, that's only the first year. You see, what you have to understand is what we are doing is like, it's creating something that would mimic you having a vending machine in your garage. Now, this vending machine isn't like any other vending machine. You see, your vending machine, every day when you walk out there and you put your dollar bill in your vending machine, the vending machine gives you your dollar bill back. And you're like, man, that's pretty cool. I got my dollar bill back. But then the vending machine gives you your coffee. So you got your coffee and your dollar bill. You're like, this is awesome. And then all of a sudden you hear ching, ching, and it drops you some change. You're like, wait a second, I got my dollar bill back. I got my coffee, and now I got some change. What would you do? Well, I'll tell you what you do. You go out there the next day and be like, I wonder if Lucky Vending Machine is going to do the same thing. So you put your dollar bill in, your dollar bill comes back out, you get your coffee, and then all of a sudden you hear chink, 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 more change than the day before. And this goes on every day of your life. Every single day you make more money than you had the day before, but nothing ever changed. You just got your money back, you got your coffee, and you got your change. This is what we create. So real quick, before we get to it, I'm going to blow your minds. Now, I just did this. Like literally, when I was at the hospital, I had some dull moments and some boring times when I wasn't sleeping. So I started thinking about this. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions is people just need to see the numbers. So if I can I just share my screen real quick? This is, I just came up with this. Now, this plan that I'm going to show you is a plan that I've designed for myself. So I can show it to you because this is my plan. Now, can everybody see my screen right now?
Yes, we got
Everybody see that?
Yep.
So this is a plan that I would design for a real estate investor. This might not be the best plan that we design because this works really well for someone that knows how to take their money and use their money to make more money. This would not work for somebody that wanted to put money in and not do anything with it, because this plan is great in the early years, not so great in the later years. But just look at these numbers, right? I highlighted it all. Here's me putting 10 grand in. And just so everybody knows, this is literally me. It just advances my age. I am not 44. It just advances my age because that's what insurance companies do. I deposit 10 grand. Immediately, as soon as my check clears, how much money do I have available here in the yellow? 9,200. So that means I can go back, I can call that insurance company, log online, and I can click a button, and 36 hours later, $9,200 shows up in my bank account. Pretty cool. And then I take that 9,200 and I go out and I buy a rental and I use it for gap funding that. But then if I keep going down and I start looking at the numbers, and I really wanted to look at returns, how I would figure a return out, and I got to really do this. So I want to show this to everybody. I'm just going to do the math. Go to year 5 here. You've got in year 5, $51,000. Now, a lot of people want to look at this and say, yeah, but Chris, I put 10 grand away for 5 years and I only have 51,000. That means I only made $1,126 on my $50,000 investment. That sucks, man. It's a 2.2% return, which really doesn't suck by today's standards. And remember, this is mostly guaranteed except for the dividend. So that doesn't suck, but that's not how you look at this. That's how you would look at money, the way you've been taught to just give up control. But didn't I say you have access to this money immediately? Year 1, you could take 9,200 out. Year 2, you could take, if you didn't take 92, you could take 19, 29, 40, 51. So let's just say you had taken 51,000 out. So then if you were able to use the money, what would be important is cash on cash return. In other words, every year I deposit 10 grand. How much is my 10 grand making? Well, let's do that math real quick because this is simple to do. Take the $51,000 right here. So 51,126 and subtract the prior year, which is 40,055. That means that year you made $11,071, but you really didn't because you deposited 10,000. So we got to subtract 10 grand to get our net return that year. Your net return from year 4 to 5 is $1,071. You might be like, that's okay, but I piss away $1,000 at the bar. Yeah, but let's just look at the return. $1,071 divided into $10,000 is a 10.71% cash on cash return. Now, remember the vending machine? Every year we play this game, it gets better. So let me just show you here. So let's go to year 5. Okay. Year 5, that was a 10.7%. I just rounded up to 11% cash on cash return. But let's go to year 11. Not very far into the future, right? 11 years from now will fly by for all of us. And especially if you had access to your money and you were using it every year. So in year 5, you made 11%. Year 11, let's look at that. So year 11, I can no longer deposit the full 10,000. There's rules or IRS rules. So you can only put money in for a certain amount of time before you have to reduce it. So I only put 4 grand in. So let's do the same thing. 117,559, which is year 11's cash value. You can see right there, minus 109,717. That's 7,842. But then we got to subtract our deposit, which is $4,000. That means we made $3,842. Now, think about that. You go to your bank, you deposit $4,000. At the end of the year, you go back to your bank and your bank gives you back your $4,000 plus $3,842. You would honestly think that Santa Claus just showed up at your bank and he's waiting in back for you. Or you would think that there's some trick to this and the bank's coming after you or they made a mistake. You'd be like, don't tell anybody. That's how it works, folks. That is a 96% cash on cash return. And it just gets even better. Take that exact same plan. So remember, here's the plan that was up to year 11. So let's say I'm using this money each and every single year that I have access to it. The only thing I care about is the cash on cash. Now, remember in year 11, let's say one of you came to me and you wanted to borrow let's just do the full amount, 117,559 you wanted to borrow. So I'd lend that 117 out to you at a 12% return. That's a good return, right? I'm making 12%, but I'm making 96% on that deposit that year. Matter of fact, then I got to subtract away the 5% that I'm graciously going to give to the insurance company. So I made 91% cash on cash on my money that year, but then you're paying me an additional 12%. Like, how many times do you want to repeat that process? As many as you can. So then I just had my daughter, okay, Viviana was just born yesterday at 9 a.m. in the morning. So I started thinking about this difference. So today I came up with this. What if I wanted to just use all this money, but then I still wanted to use this for a purpose? And the purpose wasn't just for me to lend money on real estate and buy real estate. I wanted to provide a college fund for my daughter. Well, right here in yellow, at the age of 18, when she's ready to go off to school and I got to pay for that ridiculous college, if she decides to go to college, I got 185 grand there. But every year that vending machine is going to keep growing. But what if she decides not to go to school, right? What if she wants to be a pro snowboarder or a pro surfer and she just wants to travel the world and she needs money to do that? Or she wants to open her own business and she needs seed capital. She's got $185,000 that could be used for any of those things. You see, if you save money for college in a regular 529 vehicle, the only thing you can use it for college. And if you don't use it for college, what happens? Well, you get penalized by the government, 10% IRS penalty, plus you pay taxes on it. Well, that sucks. So most people are like, well, I put all this money away for you to go to college. So I don't care that you got a dream to be a pro surfer. You're going to use this money or you're going to pay the 10%. That if you're that kind of a parent, then, you know, look at yourself in the mirror. But this is basically money she could use for anything she wants. But then let's just say I want to take this thing and I want to then retire. So age 63 or 64, you decide to retire. I got $224,000. Remember, this is looking at never making any money on your money. This is just leaving it in this dumb, specially designed whole life and doing nothing with it. My cash on cash returns right there, 64, 65, 66, and 67, 200+%. But even if you were to go over here and you were to look at the returns, 64 to 65, what did I make? 224 to 238, not bad. But every year that number keeps going up. What if you just took that out? You never even touched principal. There you go. At age 65, you had paid in $228,000 into this stupid, specially designed whole life that everybody, including Dave Ramsey, said is a terrible place to put money. But you believed that there was something more to this because you heard this story about the vice presidents and the banks and the secret of the wealthy. You would have $680,000 based on your $228,000 investment. That's a cumulative return of $298,000. But then you just keep going and you just keep taking this thing straight out. Now you never stop putting the $4,000 in because why would you? Why would you stop putting $4,000 in if that $4,000 is going to make you $3,800? But see, it's a lot more here. And you see the cash value. Look how fast that thing grows. And then you just take that out and we do the same cash on cash return at age 75. Because remember, every day your vending machine kicks out more cash. There it is. You had 423 in cash value age 75. So you subtract 423 from 402 in year 74. That means you made 21,880, but you deposited $4,000. Oh, darn. So you take the $4,000 away, you made $17,880 that year on your $4,000 deposit. That's a 447% cash on cash return. The cumulative return would be, well, I don't know. I just showed that to you. I mean, what was it? 200 and some percent cumulative? Folks, I can't make these numbers up. Like, these are the numbers. They don't lie. This is what the banks know. This is why the wealthy have used this for years. I just wanted to show you the numbers. Imagine that at 100,000. Imagine that at 200,000. Imagine if you just changed one thing in your life and you took every dollar that you were saving and you changed where that money goes first. You moved it over into this stupid, specially designed whole life plan. Okay. And then all you did is you paid everybody else out of that. Do you realize that if you just did that one thing, you just changed that one thing, your money, every dollar you put in there would never, ever not make a guaranteed 4% for the rest of your life. And there's not a darn thing you could do. You could even call the insurance company and say, Mr. Insurance Company, although I really appreciate all this interest you're paying me, but literally, like, it's getting ridiculous. Can you please stop? They would say, no, take your check and be happy with it. Otherwise, go die and we'll pay somebody else. Like, one or the two. So that's how I look at it. And that example I just gave you, what you didn't see is I haven't talked about the death benefit at all. But that example of that plan that I was going to use for Viviana's college or for real estate, what happens if I'm out at Baldface, BC, Helly Borden, and I veer to the right to go off the cliff when I should have went to the left? The cliff on the right's 80 feet. The cliff on the left, the one I really should have went, is only 30 feet. And I get in the air, man, it's a hell of a ride down. But, you know, there's a good chance I'm not going to make it. If I don't make it, I went out happy doing what I love. But you know what else is nice to know? That even though I lived a good life, even though I made that veered, I zigged when I should have zagged, my family's going to get about $445,000 tax-free because I decided to go off an 80-foot cliff instead of a 30-foot cliff. That's a peace of mind all in itself. But we didn't even talk about that because who cares about dying when we can really have so much fun living? But wouldn't it be nice to know that you get your cake and you can eat it too? That's what we do here. And look, folks, in this training we're going to do next week, I'm not going to just teach you this. I just want to start with this because literally the more times I get around the campfire and talk about this, the more excited I get. Not because I'm teaching you guys how to do this, but because I get excited because I'm doing this, folks. Every day of my life, I'm doing this. And when I talk about it, I get more fired up and I open more policies. I right now have 6. That plan I just showed you is going to be number 7. Viviana's plan is what we're going to call that one. And I'm just going to keep on going, keep on trucking with this. And the more people I can bring around the campfire or take on this journey with me, the more fulfilled I feel in my life. So next week, I'm going to fulfill.
This is great. This is great. And as you said, dude, I mean, I've been in the 2-day with you. This is, not only is it worth every penny, just understanding what the hell's going on, but this is just one fraction of what you go over inside of here. I mean, to think that, you know, if you, to your point, if you just did this one thing, it's worth.
Absolutely.
I mean,
but I'm going to do way more than this.
Right. But then knowing how to go and equally go and access people who have money, show other people how to do this, where they would then become kind of reciprocating with you so that they want to start funding your real estate deals and all. I mean, there's so many angles here that it is.
Just keeps on going.
By the way, guys, if you're digging this, we're about to wrap this up because I know Chris needs to go.
Yep.
If you're digging this, do me a favor, go in the comments and give me an absolute hell yeah. More importantly, give Chris this. I mean, this guy literally is a machine, right? Just had a baby yesterday, just came from home from the hospital today, or his wife.
I still have bedhead. I haven't showered. Like I just threw a nice shirt on
the
for you.
wristband on from the hospital. He's carving out an hour to come and hang out with you guys and share this kind of information with you. Dude, I'm so grateful that you're here to do this. Everybody that's watching this, you owe yourself this. Like Chris just talked about, next Monday and Tuesday, we are doing 2 days. We are going to do 3 hours each day, 3 separate times. I think it is 9, 12, and 4 Pacific, something like that on each day. So we're going to give you some breaks in between. But Chris is going to jump on for roughly an hour and go through different concepts over the course of 2 days. And when you walk out of there, you will be absolutely, not only will you be blown away, you will be empowered. That's the single biggest thing I want you to understand. Imagine by next Wednesday when you're sitting there thinking, holy shit, I actually can 100% get in control of my money without, and by the way, this has nothing to do with how much money you have.
No, not at all.
Let's just be real clear. Because the first thing that people say is, oh shit, well, I don't have enough money to do this. You're like, if you
whatever amount you want to save,
if you put $1 into your savings account, right, then you have the money. There's no reason to go and be the naive, ignorant person that keeps putting your money into the bank, as Chris just laid out, without going through this process. If I put it over here, then I earn a guaranteed 4%, and then I go down the path. It's one step in between a lot of the steps that you're doing right now. Before you go make the car payment, before you make the house payment, before you do this one step, and then your money makes you money while you're making the other payments. This is the way it really should work for you. And if you don't see that, then you need to go back and rewatch this video and wake up a little bit, because this is as eye-opening as it gets. I want every single, oh yeah, dude, the hell yeahs are coming in like crazy.
I see it. I got my phone over here watching. I'm like, yes. And the other thing, folks, if you guys are this excited about this, like I'm going to go so much deeper into this, but I'm not going to just go deeper into that. I'm going to cover all the stuff that's in my book, The Private Money Guide. I'm going to show you how to find all the money for all the real estate deals you want to buy. And I'm going to show you how right now, this COVID economic crash that everybody is either looking at as an obstacle or an opportunity, I'm going to show you how this opens up the floodgates for money for your deals. You just need to know how to go out there and get that money without ever asking for it. That's the one thing you're going to get. If I do nothing else besides show you what I just showed you, which is the stuff that, in the book, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, what we just talked about, plus teach you where all the money is for all your real estate deals and how not to ask for it, but to be a magnet for that money, then I've done my job in that time. But I'm even going to tell you, not just that, I'm going to show you how to go out there and help an awful lot of people along the way. I'm going to show you how you're going to build wealth, find money for your deals, but do it the best possible way by helping solve other people's problems. Because you know what? The one thing I can tell you, and this is from the bottom of my heart, you will never, ever have success in your life if you go out in your life for greed. If you go out just self-serving yourself right now, this economic crash will crush you. It will bury you so deep you'll never get out. But if you just change how you do things and you go out there with the intent to solve people's problems and help people through this, be the light in the darkness, you will find that this economic crash, whatever you want to call this thing that we're going through, will literally catapult you further and faster than you ever could get catapulted in your financial world, in your business life, and in your personal life, because that's what you have to do. You have to solve people's problems. Me teaching people that, whether or not any of you ever do any business with me, if I just teach you and show you the way, I have fulfilled. I have helped you solve your problems. And in doing that, I am fulfilled and I forever will be successful in my own right mind. And that's what you need to do. And I will teach you how to do that when it comes to money.
I love that, brother. So guys, it's going to happen next Monday and Tuesday. It's a virtual event. No excuses. Everybody's in large part got plenty of time at the house to get there and get educated real quick. So Monday and Tuesday, the link to get signed up, we put it in the comments here. I've seen Carly doing it several times. Just look up in the comments and go click the link. Chris, I didn't even talk to you about this, but I'm going to do this. Everybody that goes ahead and gets signed up, I'm going to buy each one of your books for them.
Oh, geez, that's
right?
awesome.
Right. So hold up the 2 books again there if you can.
That makes me super excited.
So both of his books, everybody that gets signed up as a gift from me, I will buy both of his books and have those shipped directly from Chris to you. So $97, get signed up, and we will be here live and in concert next Monday, going through all of this stuff and getting down in the weeds and getting very tactical, right? This is extremely conceptual at this point. We get it. You need to understand the high level concepts, but next week it will be highly tactical. It will be paint by numbers for you. Go do this, do this, do this, do this. Chris is a master when it comes to this. He's extremely organized, extremely thorough. So you do not have to sweat it at all. He is going to make sure that you understand it A to Z. Brother, anything you would leave them with before we get out of here?
I think we hit it all. I mean, just don't forget that whole thing with Will Rogers, that quote. And I always end with this. The biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. The biggest problem is what people think they know that just ain't so. Stop taking advice from people that aren't doing what you want to do in your life, and stop taking advice from people that are not out for your best interest. Learn and seek out the truth.
Amen, brother. Couldn't have said it better. Guys, peace out. We will see you guys on Monday. Take care. Chris, tell Larissa I said hello.
Time is now.
There you go, baby. I love it. Peace.
Bye.